August 9th, 2009. VGN Radio presents Midwest Wasteland with your hosts, Kevin Baird,
Brian Baird,
and Larry Mack.
Tonight's topic, housing. All right, so before we start the show, I just wanted to make a couple of little small show notes. Video Game News Radio, which is the sister show of this show, All Games is going to be putting together a new schedule, and I've mentioned this before, and we have to... we're going to start broadcasting on the All Games Network at some point once those guys get a hold of me more often than once every 6 months. And in order to do that, we're going to start doing a weekly Video Game News Radio show again. However, I don't want to upset the current balance because I think what we got going on is really good with the VGN on one Sunday and Midwest Wasteland on another. So we're going to have a second, whenever Midwest Wasteland's on, the following Monday will be a Video Game News Radio show. And I'm going to be heading it up, and if any of the other guys are available, they're welcome to join the show.
What is this?
It'll be Mondays after Midwest Wasteland, so you don't got to worry about it, Brian, because you'll be
driving
around.
In town.
So, but you might have a holiday or something. So, Anderson says he's in. Larry's always, whatever.
If I can do it, I'll be in.
And Cease has some weird business now where he has to take one day off a week and work a weekend day. So, who knows? But anyway, we might get Jedi involved in it, too, and just kind of do just another video game show during the week. Just be a little bit of different, mix-up of guests and hosts and all that kind of thing. There'll be more announcements on that when All Games actually, gets a hold of me and gets that in and start it up. I'm thinking about also putting together a show for myself because...
Kevin Baird show.
Kind of, yeah. It'll only be an hour long. It'll be between 8 and 9 on those Mondays because Anderson wants to start the shows at around 9 so he can get his kids in bed and everything. So in order to make that more possible for him...
the show will be about mocking the other people that aren't on the show.
It'll just be a show where I talk about technology a little bit and anything else.
What?
Technology.
Psychology.
Things I'm involved in. Little politics, little video games, whatever.
The stuff he tries to bring up here that's always over our heads, so we just get all quiet.
Just gets murdered. And then I'll have guests on and things like that. Also, I was on Akuma's show this week. So if you want to check it out, I was a guest on the show. It's at www.blogtalkradio.com/mytakeradio. And you can listen to the latest show. I forget, I think it's like number 5 or something like that. It's the latest one, but in case you're listening to this late, I think it's like the 5th show. And we talk about video games on it. There's some guests as well. Jedi's on there. DJ Hoot showed up. This guy, I forgot his name already, was on there as well. And it was a good show. It was a good time. He runs a pretty good show. So check it out if you get bored. You can give it a listen. All right, so on with the show. Anyway, Don Cease is not going to join us tonight. He always misses the shows that are most relevant to him. So he's going to miss this one again. He's at Cedar Point with his child, with his brood. So whatever. And Anderson will be joining us once he gets the kids to bed. Which right now I'm sure they're dancing around him, laughing.
Well, he's at the fucking first aid tent.
Yeah, he's just laying there. Get off me! I know. So we'll hear from him in about an hour, and we'll ask him all the same questions over again. So. This episode is about housing. It's about housing and moving. And I think I have moved. I think I did a calculation. It was around between 14 and 16 times in my life.
I can't even count.
It's too many, without a doubt. Larry, how many times have you moved? Do you know?
Also too many, although, I don't know. That's it. Yeah, not that many, but way too many.
Right. Most of the time it's not by choice. I think if I could just stay in one place for any length of time, I would. So let's see. We'll start it off first. Larry, when did you? How old were you when you first moved? So we can get a timeline going here.
The first time, I was 0 when I first moved. I moved out of my mother's womb into a trailer park when I was 0. No. My family moved when I was not quite 3. Was my first move. I don't know if that counts as a move. Does that count as a move?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you remember anything about it. I mean, where did you
You moved into a fucking trailer park? Were you a pod person?
Where did you start off? I mean,
I started off in a trailer park.
No, I mean, what city or whatever?
In beautiful, sunny Chesterland, Ohio.
I know where that is. You're right. It's very beautiful.
And for those of you who don't know Chesterland, it's weird because there are no trailer parks in Chesterland. It's like all full of like way overpriced houses, and it's all the people who want to spend ridiculous amounts of jack to not have to deal with hillbillies and urban types. But there was this one trailer park that had been there since it was out in the middle of nowhere, and because it was already zoned there or something, they couldn't force it to move, and that's where my parents lived when I was born. And
how could you have to move? It'd be like a fucking gypsy camp.
Going down the street in their trailers. And we were I was about 2.5, not quite 3, and we moved over to the west side of Cleveland, and that's where I actually grew up.
Okay.
In the also beautiful metropolitan West Park neighborhood of Cleveland.
And how long were you there?
I was there until I was about 15.
Okay. All right.
My sophomore year in high school.
Okay, we'll get back to that.
So you lived in a trailer park until then?
No. Till I was 2.5, and then we moved into a house in Cleveland.
Oh, okay. I missed that part.
All right, now, so Brian was born in Canada. And my our dad...
foreigners coming here taking our jobs.
As far as I understand it, our dad was living in Clawson, Michigan, which is just outside of Detroit. It's on...
Not true.
Not true. All right, Brian, go ahead.
Okay. When I was born, we lived in Canada. We stayed there for 4 years, from what I understand. And there's pictures of me that Mom has looking very bleached white, because it's Canada.
All right, that is completely not true. Because then I would be a Canadian citizen. Duh.
Okay, then it wasn't 4 years.
Yeah, it wasn't even close to 4 years. Dad, I actually talked to Mom about this. Dad was down here. Mom couldn't get over the border. Mom was stuck for a year.
Mom as a relevant source of information.
Yeah.
It's going to change 2 years from now. She'll be like, I never said that.
She was there. He was down here working, and she couldn't come over the border. It's possible that they were up there for a couple of years or something when they had you, but I doubt Dad would want you to have been. It would have been harder to naturalize you and bring you over the border if you would have been 4.
From Canada?
Mom couldn't get in.
Yeah, because she was born in a communist country, dude. That's why. Last time I checked, Canada wasn't.
Your mom wasn't actually born in Canada.
She wasn't born in a communist country. She was born in post-World War II Germany. Come on.
No, she was born in post-World War II Poland, and that part of Poland eventually became part of Czechoslovakia.
She was born in Czechoslovakia.
Which at that point, later on, before the fucking Iron Curtain came down, was communist.
All right. It's just because she was born there.
Look, man, I'm going
to kill you.
Taking your skin off.
All right, it doesn't matter. Anyway, Canada, you don't even remember any of it. Neither do I.
I remember everything.
You lie.
I remember how it started.
And
yesterday.
I remember the first war.
I just remember
the sky burned.
What they told me.
I was born in Detroit.
You were created in Detroit.
We were 14 miles. The way Detroit is, they freaking number
Dad
the roads.
Came home with a fucking erector set.
By how many miles away from the city is. So, Eminem had 8 Mile. Well, he was near 8 Mile. We lived near 14 Mile. And Clawson was basically a bunch of Irish and...
True.
We lived...
Hillbillies. A lot of hillbillies, man.
We lived next to the McLeods and the Wolves and some others. Yeah, it was weird. And we lived in this house that my dad built. No. It had like
his bare hands.
It had like this dirt basement type of thing where our mom had like a
dirt basement.
Well, it had that cubby hole, remember, which was like all carved.
Oh, it was all concrete, dude. It was nothing dirt. It was just, that place was really creepy.
That was like a dirt hole where her shelves were with everything.
Yeah, the dirt hole. No, this is fucking. It was all concrete, dude.
I don't remember it being concrete. I remember that. I remember the basement being concrete. Yes, I'm talking about that hole she had behind the curtain where she kept the still and all that when she was making wine. I swear that was like a dirt hole in there that like they.
Dude, it looked like a dungeon because you go in there. She'd put fucking shit in there to cure like vegetables, and then she just never wanted to deal with them. So like, you go in there and
eventually they'd grow feet and come out.
Yeah, dude. Because it would get all spiny with like age, and you'd swear you see like an eye staring back at you out of one of the jars. I mean, it was just like one time there was like a tornado coming through the area, and we all went down in there. I mean, it was fucking intense, right? Because we thought this is the end, and fucking. We're gonna go hide in here, surrounded by glass jars filled with fucking liquid that has held these objects for like 10 years. You know, so if we do get hit by a tornado, we're just gonna die right away from plague. Or whatever the fuck else is in that thing, man. It was creepy down there. Kevin,
sorry.
Having a beverage, is it tasty?
Clear in my throat. So, anyway, folks, I don't quite remember this because I was a retarded little nothing at the time. Brian was 3.5 years older than me, so he has a better memory of Clawson than I do. But
it was impressive. I remember that.
It was a three. You know, if you include the basement, essentially 3 floors. There was an up, and then there was an attic. So I guess whatever. So we had your typical. It was one of those houses all made out of wood. Everything creaked. Wood stairs. We had a bedroom up in the top, and then there was also our grandmother lived with us for a while, who Brian hated.
She hated me,
and
I had to fucking defend myself. Okay, I had no choice.
And she had a room on the first floor. Parents and the kids were upstairs, and there was this room on the first floor. And anyway, eventually, she died, and then our parents got divorced, and for a little while, Brian had the room downstairs, and I had the scary ass fucking room upstairs with the haunted attic, and it was all right living there, but it was a good neighborhood. We never had any problems. The kids were cool. I would say it was a harder neighborhood than the suburbs that we eventually moved into. Kids really weren't afraid of getting into fights there. Brian can tell you, and it was. I
didn't fight. I got beat.
Yeah, and
crying.
We had to walk a pretty fair distance to the school. There used to be an elementary school that Brian went to called Baker.
Yeah, Baker Beavers. I even had a T-shirt and shit. It's a Baker Beavers, and they're like, "We're closing this down."
Yeah, they closed the school down, and I'll tell you what happened. This happened all over the country. Lots of elementary schools all over the place because of the baby boomers and the baby boom. And once the baby
said, "You're out of here,"
once the baby boom's population dwindled, a lot of schools consolidated. Same thing happened here in Ohio. So they closed down a lot of schools and consolidate. So I actually went to Baker for kindergarten, and then they closed it. And then they said, well, now you got to walk to Shalm. And Shalm was a fairly, few more blocks.
Baker was a madhouse.
It was.
We had a substitute teacher in my 4th grade year, and it was like nobody listened to her. Like me and my one friend Kenny were like running around the halls playing tag. It was fucking middle of the goddamn school year, and I still somehow got passed. That was 4th grade. 3rd grade, I actually got dragged down to the principal's office by my teacher because I fucking hated her. And I was just like, she's all being mean to me. And I was like, definitely afraid of going to the principal's office. I'm like, she had to like drag me. And I was sitting there screaming, no. Fucking kids were all laughing and shit. It was embarrassing.
He was being mean.
You got that note from the school about smushing the apple.
That was from a substitute hippie teacher.
I still got that, man.
She fucking wrote my mom saying that there's people starving in Africa. She's like, well, if she's that concerned, why don't she just box it up and send it to them? And
all right, sorry. I was getting asked questions.
Are you up to, man? God damn it.
I'm all right. I'm done. All right.
Come on, damn it. Get on the ball, Kevin.
So,
fucking around.
Show's running long.
It's not about schools anyway. So,
we
lived there for a while. Our dad got married to this woman who we talk to often and talk about often on this show. And I was about, it was about 1980, so I was about 8. And Brian was, what were you in, like 7th grade?
8th. I was going into 8th.
Going into 8th. Gets married to this woman. She lives over in Troy, and they had a pretty cool house. They had a big backyard. There was a stream going through the back of their yard.
They had like an entire like acre of their own shit.
They had like a bunch of cars in their driveway and stuff, and it was kind of cool because Brian and I, my dad, he was constantly like out bowling and doing stuff, because he was still fairly young at the time, and Brian and I spent a lot of time home alone, so it was neat at first. to go over their house and spend the night and everything and hang out with all these different kids and stuff. But we didn't really, think that this was going to be something that we would do forever.
Yeah.
We wanted to go
He saw
home.
a couple of people, but we really didn't get to know them, and we were kind of hoping that this wasn't going to...
And, so they say, oh, we're going to get married and everything. And we're like, all right, fuck, So I was about 8 years old. What the hell am I going to say? Whatever. Now, during this time, just so everybody's clear, Brian and I would still go out to see our mother out in California during summers for like 2 months out of the year. And she lived originally in Inglewood, California, Los Angeles out there. And it's not a good neighborhood. Not that we ever had any problems. She had some problems. We didn't have any problems. I would actually go out, and play with the kids in the street.
Children were still off limits.
We would play ball and stuff, and I never paid it no mind that I was the only white kid with 8 black kids playing ball. I mean, it never really
didn't occur to us to worry about that shit.
We were never really like that. Like, just didn't make a difference to us. But probably was weird for other people. So, my dad might have heard about it or something, and maybe because my dad was like, he wasn't racist, but he kept his opinions to himself in most cases, unless something really set him off. So, we never really grew up with any kind. I know a lot of kids grew up with parents and things that are like way over the top, and our dad really wasn't like that. So we never really were exposed to anything, and so you didn't know any better. I say any better, but you didn't really know.
You didn't know any. You didn't know you were supposed to be scared to death.
Right. I mean, you just didn't know anything about it. It just was normal to me. My mom lived there. She lived in Inglewood. She's a crazy German woman, and she didn't know any better. That probably not the best neighborhood for her to be in. And she got people trying to break into her house and all this kind of stuff. And I'm not saying that's a race thing. I'm just saying at the time it's a low income area, and she probably shouldn't have been there. But anyway, then she moved to Westchester, California, which is right next to the freaking airport, where you could literally...
planes are always landing on top of the roof.
Yeah, I mean, you could literally see the planes flying over all the time. It was just ridiculous. So anyhow, about 8 years old at this point, and they get married, and then our dad, who worked for a company, Occidental Petroleum or something, was like, hey, we're gonna, it's a good job, and he's like, we're gonna move to Michigan, they're transferring me, and or Ohio, and they're transferring me, and we're like, all right, cool, whatever.
No, we weren't all right, cool, that sucked. No hockey team.
Well, according to Kevin, you were like, yeah, all right, whatever.
Listen, Brian, let's not forget.
No, it was bullshit. We fucking immediately hated it.
Let's not forget who you were at the time, all right? You were G.I. Joe at the time. You weren't about hockey. You were about
because
Army.
I was a retarded kid does not mean I fucking liked it.
You wore the fucking green military cap, and you fucking didn't care about sports. You wanted to drive a tank, and, I mean, come on.
You wanted to drive a tank, so you joined the Navy?
Don't act all hard about it.
Huge difference between when I was wanting to do stuff then and later in life, dude.
He was in the Civil Air Patrol, remember? So he was completely a military kid.
Very gay.
Played war all the fucking time.
That's right.
So,
God of Thunder.
We came over, we looked at this house. It's a giant fucking house. It was on Luann in North Olmsted. It was a colonial, 2 floors, include the basement, and it had, 5 bedrooms? And,
it was big as fuck.
Yeah, it had a giant family room, mud room. I mean, it's just huge fucking house. It had a built-in intercom system and stuff. Super nice, and of course...
Yeah, the first thing we fucked was the intercom, and that was like the first thing to break. It didn't take long. I'm sure that it wasn't because it didn't break just because like it broke, but due to overuse. I think someone just like, you know what, man, we don't want people because you could listen to people.
Mm-hmm.
You could like totally press a button and listen in their room, and I'm sure either my dad or my stepmother just like, that's just not going to happen.
That's not going to end well.
So, the thing you could do with it is that you could pump music through it, but only if it was turned on at the master console. So you would go into somebody's room and you would turn the volume all the way up on their thing and then wait until they're like sleeping, and then you go on and click it on, and the music would just start rocking out in their room. And so then it slowly got to the point where people were like disconnecting the wires and things like that. But anyway, so I don't really remember the move from Clawson to Michigan. I don't think I was involved in it in any way. Basically, we were spending the nights over at her place, and then we went out to California in the summer, and when we came back, we were living in Ohio.
Yeah.
And
our step family had this entire summer to like get to know all the locals and all the kids and stuff like that. And Kevin and I just descended like the mothership just dropped us off. Like, and here's our retard fucking step family. Like, oh, how are you? Because I remember everybody like looked at us and were just kind of like, no, here's you guys. I'm like, what the fuck, man?
Well, I mean, it was all right. We made friends with the kids on the street. I made friends with the kid across the street and, all that kind of stuff. So it was, I don't want to talk about the whole fucking living there thing. Brian made fucking friends. And, all
right.
This is ridiculous.
You say so.
All right, maybe not on the street. Okay, but you had friends.
You got a quota? I'll be your friend.
So, it was a gigantic house, and again, we didn't have to do with the move here, so let's just move along. So, I was, they were married till about, 86? So, about 6 years of that hell, and at which point,
Actually, they were married till like 85, and then they separated by then.
Yeah, okay, right. I'm sorry, you're right. And Brian and I had tried to move in with our mother, and she basically pulled some Jedi mind trick on it. It's like, this is not the house you want to live in. Oh, it's not.
No, but first we had to call our dad and our stepmom and say that we told our dad, we don't live with you. It's not because we don't love you, it's because we hate your wife.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, our mom's like, well, guess what? You don't get to live with us. So,
yeah,
so we go back.
I'm still mad about that.
Now that it's all uncomfortable.
Right. Oh, no. So we actually weren't allowed to go out to... We weren't allowed to...
we could handle.
Yeah, we weren't allowed to go out to California the next year, basically.
Yeah.
They made up excuses on how to keep us from going. That's a horrible moment in our lives. I don't even want to talk about it right now. So, but my mom had made these plans for us to move out there because she had to get a house and, get us in a good school system and all this kind of crap. So, about 14 years old at this point, and Brian is a senior, and the divorce happens, and we moved before this happened. I got to go out to California one time, and I came back, and I don't know if Brian was with me or not.
They had sold all my shit.
We never once went without the other person.
Okay, so Brian and I went out there, and we came back, and our dad was living in the Colonial still, but it was like there was nothing left except the TV and his bed.
There was a ton of shit left, dude. It was all. No, what my brother means is like there was like all of my stepfamily stuff was gone, but they left all their refuse behind. Okay, because then we were like, oh man, that means
all the shit that they didn't care enough about to put in a box.
Yeah. No, they just left crap everywhere. So we had to try to get it all out of the house before we moved out, and we failed. We couldn't do it because I remember like years later, or that year later on, we were doing like band boosters where we go around and ask people, beg people for money, which of course I usually kept half. And we actually went to my old house. I said, hey, I used to live here. And they're like, oh, yeah? I'm like, yeah, what do you think? They're like, I think it was a mess when we went to move in, and we're not giving you any money.
All right, I don't know about any of that. But I'll tell you
I do. I was there. What do you think? I'm a lying bastard?
I don't know. But
I don't know.
Listen, let me put this in perspective. Okay? When we lived in this house, it was supposed to be this, like, modern, like, everybody's proper. That's a good way of saying it. Everybody is supposed to do proper things. Not that it worked out that way, but everything was just normal. And the parents had their own bedroom. We weren't allowed in it. Everybody had their own room. Things were supposed to be clean, neat, orderly, whatever. And when we got back, after living like this for like 6 years or 5 years or whatever it is, I got there and my dad's bed was in the family room now, next to the TV.
Yeah.
Like, he had moved his bed downstairs, set it up in the family room, and he was laying on it with the one TV and it was just like a weird visual to me.
It was sad.
Yeah, it was just like, wow, what's going on? This is fucked up.
I wouldn't want to sleep in the top part of that fucking room, in that big-ass house either, dude.
Well, okay, true, but, So, I don't remember the move. I think maybe Brian does better than me. I don't think I was involved much in it. Again, somewhat retarded. And Brian was going into his senior year of school, so I was 14 or something, 13, 14 at the time, and I was in 8th grade. And so we moved to an apartment, and it was Jamestown Apartments, and my dad couldn't afford to give us both our own room, right? So we both, like, there was one bedroom, and he slept on the couch, or how did that work? I don't quite remember that. But at some point, Brian and I were, like, sharing a bedroom, and...
yeah, but it was a pretty good-sized bedroom. Like, we had, like, the I don't know if we had
were,
the master
both
bedroom or
playing
not,
in
but it was
the
still the
bed
big
together.
bedroom, and then there was like a second. When we first moved in there, dude, it was a 2-bedroom gig. Dad had one room, and we had the other one.
Yeah.
And then when I went in the Navy, then, and you went to live with Mom, then you got the 1-bedroom.
Yeah, okay. So it was 2 bedrooms, fine. And Brian and
I'm sure
I,
this is making sense.
Brian and I
Everybody.
shared the room, whatever, and it was tight living. It was close quarters, and we did that for that year, and then Brian and so now here's the thing: my mom had been planning for us to move out to California, and Brian decides that he's going to join the Navy instead. Mm-hmm. So then I had to go live out in California with my mom, who, when she was divorced and left my father, I was 7.
I abandoned him.
So I had no idea, what she was like. And
I left him on his own.
And so I had to go live, I've already established friends.
He had to become a man at an early age.
I'm already in school, you know what I mean? And now I got to go out and start all over again, which was pretty crazy. And then at the same time, my brother, who was nuts for joining the Navy, decides that that's what he's going to do with his life. Dad, I'm going to join the Navy. Dad was probably like, all right, you go, Brian.
Dude, what the fuck else was I going to do? I had no other prospects.
Yeah, that worked out well for you, though. So,
who knew?
So, Larry, now you're about the same age. You're about 15. What happened?
That works out well. And right around the age of 15, my dad remarried. My parents got divorced when I was 8. And it was right around 14, 15 that my dad remarried. And we got ourselves a house out in the suburbs. I moved from Cleveland further west out into Berea. Got to do the whole school switching thing. I living in Cleveland, of course. For those of you who don't know Cleveland, Kevin talked about Inglewood, and the next scariest place in the world is the Cleveland public schools. And it was just because my options were either go to private school in Cleveland or get stabbed in the bathroom. I went to Catholic school while we were living in Cleveland. Went to one of those rich boy Catholic college prep high schools in Cleveland. And when we moved to Berea, my dad made a point of saying it was perfectly fine with me staying at the high school I was at. Now, that means I'd have to, get up at 5:30 in the morning to make the trip into the east side of Cleveland to go to school. So, needless to say, that didn't happen, and I switched schools then, too. So, and I got the culture shock of not only moving, but going from the all-boy Catholic school to public school, and all of a sudden there were chicks, and I was like, because
Pee-pee hurt.
Yeah, I walked. I was like, "Oh my God, there's women!" I think I just came.
Yeah.
Oh, and while you were talking, I did do the math, and not counting. It did. Not counting the one where I was, 2 years old and don't remember anything, and also not counting when I moved into,
Oh, just count them and give us the number. Fuck.
Yeah. Not counting going into the Army and moving to Ohio State, because those don't really count. I moved 9 times. So.
Okay. Anderson's joined us, and
Hello, Doug.
I know Anderson has basically lived off Lansing for his whole fucking life before he got old.
24 years.
So, Anderson, you were born at Fairview Hospital?
Yes.
And then you lived off Lansing
On the Don Lansing.
until how long?
24 years. Well, 24 or 23 years and 9 months, because there was that 3 months I lived in Oklahoma.
Okay, so how old were you when you went to Oklahoma?
21.
All right, we'll get to that. So
Right on.
Hang tight.
Hey, I'm hanging, baby.
So, Larry, you moved where?
I moved to Berea.
And how old were you when you moved from Berea?
From Berea, let's see, I finished high school and joined the Army, then I came back to Berea, then I went to OSU, then I came back to Berea, and then I believe the next one would have been, maybe Broadview Heights.
Okay. How old were you then?
22.
Okay, we'll get to that. So for Brian and Larry, since you guys are both talking about joining the military at about this time,
You were brave for doing that, Larry.
can you
I want you to know that.
can you explain to people a little bit about what you felt like when you left home and you got to boot camp? I mean, what was
Take me back. I'm sorry.
Well,
Get me the fuck out of here. This sucks. This is bullshit. Fuck. What was I doing?
What was
This
the
ain't like the movies.
What was
First
the-
off, it ain't black and white.
tell us the mental process that you were going through. I'm interested.
It was mental.
I totally
right?
didn't sign my whole legal name. The
Yeah.
contract is invalid.
I'm not.
It's sort of like
Not when you
Kevin, it was
get
sort of
there.
like living with our stepmother.
No.
Except they were guys, and they were like ferocious.
Listen, I understand. What I'm saying is when you left, you were leaving home. You haven't got there yet.
Leaving home.
You're
What-
getting in the car.
Right. What are you?
Pack your bags.
What are you thinking about? Like, are you thinking?
Oh, I was a
shit.
retard. I was like, I'm off on an adventure, and this will be great because I'll be away from home, and I'll help defend our country. I don't know against who, and it'll be great. It'll be a beautiful thing, and then you get there, and you.
Actually, mine was a little different than that.
You weren't retarded
I entered later than Brian.
when we were at peace.
No, I was on the delayed thing where I went through all the stuff and then signed
All
the
right, let
contract,
him in.
but I was still in high school, so it was like after I finished, then I would go. And I remember because I was still all sappy and emo and had only been exposed to actual women for like 2 years at that point in my life. I specifically wanted to wait until the end of summer vacation because my girlfriend would be going back to college anyway, and I was like, that way we can spend the summer together because I was, lerpy. And this was in 1990. For our many listeners who weren't alive in 1990,
Right.
that was the summer that Iraq invaded Kuwait and we stormed the beaches. So it was the height of the first Gulf War. My mother, of course, was seriously looking into who she could write a letter to get me out of going because, well, we were like actually at war and it would be dangerous. So it was a whole big thing with me leaving. And if I didn't want to go, she would call her congressman or do whatever it took so that I didn't have to go.
Like he's going anyway.
Sign
No,
your name. You're done.
I was all about it. I was like, you know what? When I first signed up, I was like, I'm going to join the Army and spend the next 4 years fucking learning how to fix the transmission on a tank or some shit like that and doing push-ups. This way I actually get to, like, kill people and break things. I'm going, damn it. Needless to say, I never left Fort Knox and didn't get to kill people and break things, but...
He knows how to fix a motor on a tank.
You were like that guy, and you were like that dude in Mars Attacks.
Jack Black.
Yeah, Jack Black in Mars Attacks.
Yeah, that was me. I was all set.
That's awesome.
So I wasn't, it's a big adventure, and I was all set to I was all set to go kill shit and storm the beaches, and there was a part of me that I was all set that this was going to be my last big hurrah, because knowing me, I was going to go over there, step off the plane onto a landmine. And, that was
There's
it.
a common land plans next to him.
Just step right off and what was that?
Damn it. I wouldn't even get the glory of being killed by a monkey while taking out the garbage. I would just walk off the plane onto a landmine.
Okay. So at this point, all right, I had flown out to California while these guys were fucking around in the military, and
That's what we're doing, fucking around.
yep,
That's all we
I've
do.
heard the stories. I know what you were doing, Brian.
He's going to California to surf. We're defending our country.
Surf. I could see Kevin on a
You're
surfboard standing like a bridge of
Brian
attention.
Brian was talking. I remember Brian talking, and I'm sure this isn't Brian's fault, okay? But I remember Brian was talking about how, like, he was going to be stationed in Hawaii, and he was going to be on an aircraft carrier or something, and, like,
No, I was going to be on a frigate.
It was going to be all nice and stuff, and he was going in to learn how to be, like,
boiler technician.
something ridiculous. And,
Super
And I
killer.
found out what it was like being a boiler technician. I said, fuck that.
And, yeah, and then the
You
reality
go,
set in.
you go into the military to get all that hands-on training for jobs that completely don't exist in the civilian sector.
Yep, exactly.
You come out of the Army, you put on your resume, I know how to man
Shovel
a
pole.
guided missile system. So if you're looking for anybody that does that, I'm him.
I could tear apart and put back together an M16 in the dark.
Yeah, I had to be able to do that in, I can disassemble and reassemble an M16 in 15 seconds. Hire me to.
That'll be awesome, sir. We have a job for you, but you'll have to kill innocent civilians. Where do I sign?
Yeah.
Here's your
I learned
broom.
how to do that too.
Here's a sentence Tom Packard's used to. Here's a broom.
So, I got out to California. My mom was still living in Westchester. We had to move. Again, I don't even really think I wasn't lifting no couches and nothing like that. I mean, she had probably a bunch of Mexicans come over and move everything. And,
Wow.
no, I mean, she did. She had a bunch of
I know. I go figure, right? It's always got to be Mexicans.
Right. I mean, it's just that she worked with a bunch of Mexicans, and that's what came over. So they loaded it up, whatever, and we got to the house, and the people that were living in the house were still there.
Oh, nice.
Until, we were there, and they were driving away when we showed up. Like, they wanted to live in the house until the moment we arrived, basically, which my mom was pretty pissed off about. So, we got...
Mom didn't need much to get pissed off, dude.
Yeah. And so we got this house, and it was a ranch. It was no basement, no attic, no second floor, nothing. And it had a fenced-in yard with a back fenced-in area for, like, a dog, and then a front area. And it had a garage, and it was a nice house. It was nice. It had 2 bedrooms, and it was pretty cool. I had no problems with it. And I lived there for about a year because I had no problem with the house, but the occupants of the house were a big problem for me. So Brian would visit on occasion. He was actually stationed in Long Beach, and would drive home or whatever, take the bus or however the hell you got
I would get a
home.
ride from a friend.
Yeah, and he'd usually bring the friend or friends, and there'd be 20 Navy guys in my house who had just gotten off the boat, so they're all fucking weird and talking shit, and I don't know. So I just sat there and watched it. They'd rent pornos and watch them together. It was gay, and yeah,
We didn't fucking watch porno in our fucking underwear. Calm down.
it doesn't matter. It was a bunch of guys sitting around watching porno together. It was just
A couple guys lined up on the couch with a blanket, maybe some pillows.
Is your brother asleep yet? I think so. Boy,
Some of his friends were cool. One guy, Hawk, was pretty cool, but then there was that other guy that remember that one dude who was all weird and effeminate?
Campbell.
Yeah, Campbell. Man, that guy wasn't right. And so it was okay living there for a year. So I got to see Brian, which was all right. And then
which was all right.
yeah, well, because the rest of the time when Brian wasn't around, it was absolutely fucking it was hell. And basically because my mom made a big mistake. Basically, she decided that she wanted to have
Children.
me move out there.
That's usually the first mistake people make.
She wanted to have me move out there and live with her, but then at the same time, Stouffer's had opened up a brand new hotel at the LAX airport, and they said, do you want to help us open this new hotel? Bigger, more responsibility, and all this. And so she was like, okay. So that basically meant she worked 20-hour days or something ridiculous, and when she was home, she just immediately passed out. So when you're a teenager and you have no guidance and you're in sunny California, what do you
go
do?
surfing.
Yeah, you go surfing, you hang out at the beach, you party with your friends, you don't come home. It was too many problems. So my dad got on the phone, he's like, well, you're coming home, And I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm tired of this place. So
That's after he pushed her out the window.
Yeah.
I was going to say, is this the house that you pushed out the window?
Right, it was a first floor window, man.
I understand that, but still, the fact of the matter is, you pushed your mother through a window.
There's mitigation.
It was open.
It could be open. It could be right on the ground. It could have no pane of glass. It had no curtains. It could just be a square hole in the wall. You pushed your mother through it.
This was something that just got out. This is something that got out when we were in gym class, and I never
pulled the cord. But granted, hey, she pulled the phone cord out of the wall when he was on the phone.
It was that was another. Yeah.
Never mess with the Jesus.
Anyway, so
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I got back, and my dad was living in a 1-bedroom apartment, and he took the couch, and I took the bedroom or whatever, because he didn't want me to watch late night TV for some reason, because he thought it was bad. It was still kind of fucked up in that way. It was television. It wasn't cable. Okay, it was an antenna. There was nothing on, but he just didn't want me to.
Network television gets kind of racy.
Right. Yes. So there was that wasn't going to happen. And I was like, and I had failed 9th grade because I only went to school half the year basically, and So I had to repeat ninth grade. They lost my school records for the classes I did pass, so they basically just treated it like...
Did they lose it the same way that Mom said that the guys who moved all of her stuff out to Vermont lost all my rock posters and shit? You know, which means that she just basically threw it away.
Yeah,
dealing with it.
I'm sure she threw it out. Probably, Brian. I don't know. So I got back, and so at this point I had to restart ninth grade, and that's when I met the great Don Anderson.
Who's he?
Him and Bill Bailey were in my homeroom, and
which was the lunchroom,
which was basically the lunchroom. And was that the middle school? No, it was high school.
No, it was high school.
It was high school.
I remember the very first day.
Yeah,
I've already told that story, but go ahead.
Yeah, and I had to sit there.
Give us your perspective, sir.
These two guys, they hung out at a comic book store. So basically, they worked at Wendy's.
They were selling Bob.
Well, Bill Bailey didn't, and Anderson was also in my OWA class, the first one. So because there was 2 periods, I had 4 periods in the day.
Me too. 2
of them were OWA. One was English, and like another was like gym.
Right. No, was it gym? I thought they gave you...
I think 9th grade was gym, because 9th and 10th were gyms. You had 9th and 10th grade was gym.
Oh, yeah, it's all right, because I did have gym. You're right. Yeah. I think we had the same... You and I had the same gym class, too.
Yeah, right.
Oh, God, who cares?
Gym and health. Well, anyway, there was only 4 periods, and I had one all to myself, and Anderson was in the other one. So that's how I ended up talking to him. So...
No, you were drawing a pentagram on your folder. Me and Bill Bailey started calling you evil.
Look who my brother is.
No, I understand that. I mean, I didn't know it at the time, but it was all like, and then to show how evil, to show Bill Bailey and I were to show you how evil you were. We started singing a Def Leppard song at you.
Right? Yeah, that was the women's song. Right?
Women's song. Yeah, women. The one off of Hysteria that nobody liked. Which is odd because I thought it was like a really good song. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, and. So anyway, I lived with my dad, and we were in a one-bedroom apartment.
Singing Def Leppard songs to my brother. If I'd known that, I'd have killed you both.
That's because he was drawing a pentagram on his folder. See what I'm saying? He was trying to summon you. He was trying to get your attention.
Some Dokken or somebody good, but no.
So basically, my dad moved us pretty much right away into a 2-bedroom again, and it didn't last very long because Brian was ejected from the Navy. And
all right, tell the story correctly. I was ejected out of the Navy.
All right, rejected. Go ahead. Why don't you tell everybody?
I had a nervous breakdown while I was in the Navy because
they asked him to leave very strongly.
Well, no, because they asked me to do you want to leave the Navy? I'm like, no, this is easy money. I'm like, the problem isn't because I hate the Navy or anything like that. It's like because I had a very fucked up childhood, which we found what the problem was. I was like seeing shit. Plus, it didn't help that I was doing crystal meth. At the time.
Back in the day.
Here comes going to tell my life story.
Oh, no. Let me see. Let's not talk about... Okay, first of all, I just want to say something. Don't talk about drug use on the show. The internet is forever, and I really think that, these things will last forever, and then one day somebody is going to make a new law to kill you.
I would already tell them that was a part of my life that happened 20 years ago. It's over.
No.
Anyway. They'll apply the law retroactively.
They will, because the world is a crazy place. Who knows how they'll root you out 20 years from now, so just don't mention it. Anyway.
Yeah, you're going to be going into politics. I saw the interview you were giving on C-SPAN this weekend, Representative Brian Baird.
Here's the thing. Okay.
Phone places, dude.
Let me say something to you. I'm a technology person. And all those people listening, think about it this way. Okay? It's not going to take very much time for computers to be able to listen to this.
Live without us.
Listen to me. Listen to what we're recording.
Singularity.
And transcribe all of it into text.
Voice recognition.
Right. It's coming.
Identify.
And then it's not going to take long.
It's here. Welcome to 1990.
Right. It's not
Identify Logan 5.
It's not going to take long for that to then associate itself to you. So that eventually, when you need a new job in 10 years, and somebody does a background check on you, all your information that's publicly available will be on the internet, and it'll be attached to your profile. And so then everything that you say about yourself, they're going to know about. And you're going to be like, well, it's no big deal. Fuck it. I'll just tell them, it happened a while ago and shit. They don't care, man. So just don't say things that are totally going to incriminate yourself. I'm just telling you.
What?
It's a mistake. They're going to be able to eventually find that information out about you rapidly, like they do everything else, because computers get smarter every year.
I'm going to be taken up by computers.
No, but you're going to be crying.
And that microchip.
The moral
True
of the
value
story
goes
is
out of-
never get fucked in a feather bed. I get
True,
it.
True Value goes out of business, and then you'll be like, okay, get a fucking job because fucking
They found
background
out
check.
20 years ago I did crystal meth.
Fucking
Oh, I'm dead.
background check. Oh yeah, you think that's a joke? Haha. Trust me, there are places,
Ha-ha.
places will fucking burn your
You
ass.
guys do the way you used to do, man. Ha ha, I'm so funny. Ha ha.
Look at Arnold Schwarzenegger. He
Anyway.
got in trouble for fondling a woman's breast 30 years ago.
Yeah, but I'm not Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's ripped.
Right, but you have fondled breasts.
Oh, yes.
All
And
right.
granted, it was mine, but
Okay, so due to... Well, how'd
So
you-
anyways-
Well, wait. Let me say something.
you just said something and
Shut
nobody's
up.
listening then.
Hold on. Wait.
go
I
ahead.
just
go
want
on.
people to understand the timeline because the militaries are different. When Brian was in the
You
military,
use a different clock.
when Brian was in the military, the Cold War was still going on.
Yes, it was.
So you weren't allowed to leave the military at all. He was just not fucking part of it. I got friends
Dude,
later
you
on in
did
life
it.
that just go up to their guy and like, I don't want to be in this anymore. And they're like, well, do 500 push-ups and then come back tomorrow. And if you don't want to be in it, I'll let you out. And that kind of shit happens. Now, maybe not in the war that's going on right now, but like Matt Solars, that totally happened. He just was like in there and he was just like,
What, boot camp?
no, he was like out of boot camp. He was in the service and he was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And they were
I
like,
said yes.
and they were like, yeah, he said come back in 24 hours because Clinton had gone in and started to
That's the arms reduction, yeah.
right, the arms reduction. Right, exactly.
Yeah, but they were doing that before when I
Well,
was
I'm
still
just-
in, dude. They were just like, if you weren't doing nothing with your career, they're kind of like, I mean, I was at the end of the Cold War. It wasn't like at the beginning where, like,
Yeah, I know you were there in the 60s. I know.
we didn't have to, we were living in the atomic age.
Right, but you
Everybody
still
was a
couldn't
cop.
get out. You couldn't go up to your CO and be like, I want out, man. Just let me.
Yeah, because he'd look at me and go, so do I.
Yeah.
Fucking get back to work.
That's what I'm saying. All right.
That's-
So go ahead. Tell your story about how you got ejected.
Ejected. No, that was basically it. I just had a nervous breakdown, and I had no problem being in the Navy, dude. I mean, except for like the usual grunting, bitching, moaning bullshit. I didn't mind it, But then they asked me, like, do you want to stay in? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, no, we're not going to let you stay in. All right.
You want to stay? Yeah, too bad.
Yeah, that means you're nuts. So you're out. But yeah, it was all right, man. Oh, Larry's back. Look at that.
Well, Larry's out.
Yeah. But that was it, man. I mean, mostly, that was the big deal was just I had a hard, I mean, the military is hard on everybody. I'm not some big fucking pussy.
You are.
I'm just saying that, that this particular time I went through something due to past problems, not because of the military.
Whatever.
So,
Yeah.
whatever. Tell your story.
So I'm living in this apartment. My dad finally gets us a 2-bedroom. So I'm thinking I'm going to have my own room.
Oh.
Wrong. Big wrong.
That's right.
Brian comes home. Brian had a choice. He could continue to live with my mom
Oh, no.
in Vermont
Right. That was out.
or
My job
come
options
back
were being
to
a
Cleveland.
woodjack.
So we
Wait a
come-
minute. I got a question.
Yep.
I remember your one-bedroom apartment, and I remember Brian being there. Was that just him coming back for a little bit and then going somewhere else?
No, I just moved back then.
That would
In
have
the
been
one-
right. That would have been right in 9th grade when you had come and he had arrived and he and I had to share a room. Right.
Right. There was that bed in the like in the dining room. There was like a single bed in the dining room, and then you had the 2 beds in the bedroom. Right.
Probably for a very narrow moment in time. Yeah. Something
Right.
like that.
Right. I mean, that was towards the end of your one-bedroom place because I never really saw him there. I only saw him there like once or twice. That's why I was asking. Was that just him visiting?
Yeah.
Or was that him just there for a little process?
And then we moved, and so I never had the 1 bedroom to myself. Brian and
Right.
I had to share a room for a little while. Brian didn't stay living with us too long. He
Ooh. Stick and move.
he got involved, and then Brian, go ahead. This was
I thought we were supposed to be talking about moving. And
We
so
are.
far, we're talking about like our lives.
no, we're talking about moving. We're talking
is the
about
topic?
we're talking about the places we're going to, but I'm trying to follow a timeline.
All right.
And we haven't gotten to a point where any of us have actually done any physical labor involving moving. So we're trying to get
No, because
there.
I didn't have shit, dude. I was still like, kind of like,
well,
hey, that's
well, now
cool.
we're
I don't have
we're
to-
going there. So you moved out with your 1 pair of underwear and your toothbrush or whatever you had,
Yeah, pretty much.
your boombox.
Come on. He doesn't have a toothbrush.
And
Dude, just couldn't tell by my breath.
you moved in with your future wife.
Yeah, we moved in together and there's a little apartment off of Cam's Corner, which
Future ex-wife.
Across
yeah,
from the
best of
cemetery.
times the worth of time. No,
Where?
that was whatchamacallit, that was after that. That's when I moved in with my brother-in-law and his girl. His
No, that hot. That was the Rock.
We'll get there.
Go ahead. Sorry, the one little bedroom that was like down, and it was like in a little basement thing.
Yeah, that was the first place we lived in that place, and it was like first time living on my own with my girlfriend, kind of on my own, and all I was concerned was I knew that Cam's Corner is not exactly the best fucking neighborhood. All right, it just isn't. Say whatever you want. It's just not the greatest fucking neighborhood.
I was born there.
Okay, it's not the fucking worst neighborhood in the world either. It's just not that good. And dude, you didn't live there, right? We had people it was like breaking the cars in the parking lot and shit. Fucking gangs of kids would come. One time, a bunch of kids came in.
Gangs of kids, like packs of wild dogs roaming the street,
running
amok. A couple kids on BMX bikes with training wheels.
They ripped out. We had
crawling out of the sewers at night. Fucking.
But that's after Kevin ran by with his furs on and banged on top of the fucking sewer system piece of pipe.
All right, let's stay on track.
Yeah, it was just I didn't like living there. I just thought the people that lived there were fucking like subhuman, because they could all kick my ass. So that's what I thought.
That place was a cool party place, though. I mean, I had no concept of like being cool to your neighbors at all. I was kind of like, I'm throwing a party and everybody doesn't like it, they can go fuck themselves.
Right.
Nice kid.
It was basically like a weekend party place of magnitude. We would go there all the time. My graduation party was there, for crying out loud.
The guy had the gun.
You stayed there for like 5 seconds.
People crawled out the windows. Dude, I was there for a while. We were doing quarters on the table.
Me and Oz were in the bathroom hiding in the bathtub.
I was not there when there was that whole thing where we had to move the cars because they were getting towed. And then
there's that thing with the guy with the gun. Don't go out, everybody get on the ground.
We're get on the ground.
There's a dude out there with a gun. Me and Oz walked out there. We're all laughing. It was a great time.
So that was about my graduation, which puts me at about 19 years old. And
91.
Right after graduation, my dad was like, all right, you're out of this school. Good, we're moving. Because he hated living in North Olmsted. Hated it. And it was too expensive, and he didn't like living in Jamestown, but he kept us there because the school system was excellent. And so he...
above reproach.
The school system's excellent. It was the student that was the problem.
Right, exactly. I did graduate, though. I got out of there. So
yeah, we all did.
And so I was like, all right, she's like, well, I'm going to move to Broadview Heights. Broadview Heights is the furthest city south of Cleveland in the county. It's far away. It is not near anything. It's not near any good place at all. There's nothing around it.
Talking about
Broadview Heights is not near anything. There's no mall next to it. There's no fucking movie theater. There's no fucking anything there. Anything you want to do, you got to drive fucking far.
You were on 82 right in between 77 and 71, so it didn't matter which highway you took. You were like, shit.
No, it was much closer to 77.
Yeah, it was way closer to 77.
But
it was closer to 77, but the thing is, if you want 480, you had to go further on 480 to get to 77 just to come around and hook.
Southland Mall wasn't there. There was nothing there, man. It was the sticks. And it's a lot better today. But I still wouldn't want to live there again. Larry lived in that freaking...
They're looking for you.
In that place as well. But this was, I think, pre-Larry, or just about when Larry was there, because I was 19. Larry's a little bit older than me. But we lived there...
We think Larry's a little older than you. We don't
know. Larry could be younger than me. I'm not sure. So we lived there for... with my dad, I lived there for...
it wasn't that long.
About a year with my father. And then he went all father. I'm moving out with my girlfriend. I'm taking the TV, and you could have everything else in the house, which, was like dishes and shit. And he's like, you just got to get a roommate to live with you.
A pudding bowl.
And I was like, all right. So I called up Don Cease, which would have been good if he was here. And he moved in, and that was our place for a while. Now, that puts it at... Let's see, Larry.
Yeah.
Now, you were in Berea?
Yeah.
And now you are moving to Broadview Heights?
Yeah, at this point I'm thinking it would have been Broadview Heights, and I was, although we didn't know it, I was living about a couple 100 yards from you.
Right.
At that point.
Right. We didn't know each other, and we had no...
Probably passed each other in the parking lot like, look at that asshole. Who's he looking at?
Well, no, because Kevin was all like, rich and shit and lived back in the townhouses.
Oh my God!
right.
No,
I was up in the white
a
trash.
townhouse. I was in those big like Soviet
You're in the
block
condos.
No, that was the
No way.
Soviet block giant buildings that they had.
It was on like the third floor or something like that.
They're like freaking.
Sorry, Kevin.
Yeah, they're
Kevin.
like big brick. The big apartment buildings.
The big giant condos in the back.
No condo.
He had a buzzer at the door. You had to buzz the thing and get.
I thought you were in the
No.
condo townhouse things in the back.
We were in the Soviet style apartment complex that was
Soviet
there.
style.
That's where I was at.
Up to
Oh really? I thought
guys
you were in the
close
front near in the garden
I
apartment.
was right up on 82.
You pull up.
Well,
up.
that's
that
now
long
where the
driveway,
big
and you bust
buildings
off to
are.
the right.
You got to go around back, and there were three
Fashion.
giant buildings.
Turn to the left.
Yeah, where they had all the condos and
Turn to the right.
townhouses and
No.
jacuzzis and penthouses and shit.
No, this was
Like
bad.
me, you turned into my parking lot right off of 82.
Yeah, that's the garden apartments. Those were the
The
weakest.
garden
ones.
apartments.
Yeah, they were weak. And I admit yours were worse. But we were totally in an apartment, and I mean, come on, they let me and Cease live
You
there.
guys are
How
both trying to
nice
act
could
like
it
you're the
be?
poorest motherfuckers, man. Listen to you.
I know. What the hell?
I was a poor
I
white
was.
boy
I was taking pictures.
living on the edge.
I was born a poor black man.
Come
in
on,
Alabama.
we didn't even have central air, man. We had one air conditioner in the wall in the living room. It's not no condo or nothing. So anyway,
So you moved in there with your dad. Your dad lived there for a year.
yeah,
he left
and
out
then
with his
he
woman.
left. Don Cease moved in. Larry
Right.
moved into the same area, and Don Cease and I lived there for about another year.
And
And
somewhere in there is
we
where
were in
Kevin
love.
pulled a knife on somebody or
Now-
strangled Kevin Rom or something.
Right now, at about this time, Anderson, you went to
Still at home.
You went to Oklahoma.
Yeah, I guess that would be right.
Right.
I was 21. Well, no, because you would have had to have been 22
Well, right. This was
because it was
this
94.
19 I moved, so it's about 22 because remember you guys came back and visited me in Fairview, which was the year after I moved out of this place.
Right, but I already.
Kevin.
But that's the thing is when I left, you were already living in
Poor
Fairview. I
Kevin
think.
living out here
It
in the
doesn't matter.
cobbles.
Tell us
Because
tell us about going to Oklahoma, man.
No,
Do you
no,
have
that
a
was
copy, sir?
going to Oklahoma was absolutely
The worst thing you've
on
ever
paper the greatest thing that could ever happen to me. But in real life, it sucked ass. We loaded. It was me and Kevin Rom. Kevin Rom had this buddy of his, Kurt Gooch, who since then has written a book and been on the New York Times bestseller list and all this blah 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 blah. But he had this great business idea. Basically, what it was movie phone. After movie phone already came out, and for some reason.
Almost a good idea.
Yeah, and for some reason, you know what I mean? We're 21, and Kevin Rom's like, dude, I got this awesome idea. If this works, we're going to be rich. And I was like, okay, let me look at this stuff. I looked it over, and I was stupid. And I was like, okay, whatever. Where we got to go? He's like, Oklahoma. I was like, I'll go. So we loaded up. We got a small U-Haul. We loaded up our stuff, pulled it with my old truck, my first truck, my gold truck, and let's see, headed down 70. Oh, yeah. Now that we'd never been anywhere by myself. You know, I always went with my parents, so my dad took care of everything. So we went to like a gas station. We're like, yeah, we're going across country. We're going to go move to Oklahoma. You know, could you hook us up with a tune-up? And the guy's like, sure. It's going to be this much money. And we're like, okay, cool. You know, and you come back like an hour later. He's like, yeah, you're all set. We paid him the money. We pulled out like half hour down the road.
Cars
We stopped at the
exploded.
gas station. I just popped the hood just to take a look. All the same wires, all the same. They didn't do anything. They just took our money because they're like, screw it, they're going across country. But anyways, so I even asked him, and I know this is
American way.
I know this is how they fucked us because I asked him. I said, hey, listen, I've never driven my truck with a trailer across country. What am I supposed to do? What are some rules? What are some things I need to know about driving? And the guy's like, just put it in overdrive. You're good to go. Hello?
Yes.
I'm still here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're still here.
The guy says, just put it in overdrive. You're good to go. I didn't know you're not supposed to put it in overdrive. We made it to Belleville, which is like an hour out of Cleveland. And we're going up and down these hills and up and down these hills. And all of a sudden, the smoke starts coming out the engine. And we're both freaking out. Rom's got a gun in the truck. Oh, man. It was a bad time. Basically, a cop pulled over, came over and was like, hey, what's the matter? Blah, blah, blah. I called the tow truck. Tow truck took us to the garage. The guy at the garage is like, your transmission's shot. We're like, shit. And now before this trip, Kevin Rom had saved up whatever, a couple $2,000 or something like that. 3,000. He had like $3,000 because we had to pay for like the apartment and stuff that this dude got for us. And of course, the dude that we're working for is like, I'm getting you the best apartment. It's like $600 a month for two guys with no job. And it was like it was a really nice apartment. I wish I would have taken pictures of it, but I was too poor. I didn't have a camera. And, you know what I mean? So it's like, shit, all this money we had was going into the original whatever we had to get in. So the truck's broken down. The guy's like, you go, and I had $160 because I was always broke. Because I was, you know what I mean? That's typical, right? Doesn't that sound about right?
Great way to start your whole new life. Just get on the road and travel to Oklahoma with less than $200 in your pocket.
Anderson, what are you doing? Oh, I'm moving across country. Oh yeah, how much money you got? $160. You know. So what are you going to do when you get halfway there, jackass? Nothing. We even stopped halfway, ate at McDonald's, and looked at each other like, this is probably like our last meal, dude. We're going to be so broke. Actually, that's later on. The truck was broken. The guy said it's going to be the guy's like, your transmission's shot. Probably be about $1,000, and it might take about 5 to 6 days to get one in here. And we're like, are you kidding? And I'm like, we're stuck in Belleville. What is Belleville? And this is before they even put gas stations up around there, because that place was desolate. And so basically, these guys, everybody was fucking with us on this whole trip.
Is that for in case somebody calls up and is like, I've been to Bellevue, they got gas stations. What are you talking about? Like, you guys
they do now. No, because now it's like I go there now and I'm like, I remember getting off. This is the exit we got off at.
It's like a metropolis now and everything.
There's like There's like Steak and Shakes and Wendy's and Applebee's and you know what I mean. There's like all this stuff.
Right on.
But so the guys, everybody just wanted to fuck with us on this trip. Because the guys in this garage, they watched us walk back and forth. We were pacing back and forth, smoking cigarettes, going crazy. Like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We're fucked. We got to get out, you know. And then about half hour later, the guy came up and was like, hey, I took a look at your transmission fluid. You're just low on transmission fluid. What were you doing? Were you driving in overdrive? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, why would you do that? And I'm like, the guy who did our tune-up said to drive in an overdrive. I said I was honest with him. I told him I didn't know what I was doing. You know what I mean? At least if you try to be honest with them and tell them, you know, you figure they'd be
decent,
right? And they weren't. But and the guy was like, "Yeah, okay, here you go." He goes, $10 for. He was like, "Whatever, $10 for the transmission fluid. You guys are good." Like, oh, sweet. He was like, "Don't drive in overdrive." Like, okay. So we decided to come back home for the night, and we would just leave the next day.
Start over.
Right. So we were driving home. And as we were coming up 71, and as you know that when you go 71 north, when it gets into 480 and you go to head west, that big loop, then you get on 480.
Yep.
Everybody's with me. Okay.
Yes.
Just before that loop, one of the trailer tires popped.
Oh my God.
Right. The trailer was still moving. It was still moving because it had 4 wheels. You know what I mean? And everything was going fine. It's just we had a flat tire.
We got 3 more.
Right. We're still good. Nothing's dragging. Nothing's bumping. Nothing's going crazy. We're like, all right, we're just going to go. We're right here at 480.
Because it's riding on the rim.
Yeah. Well, no, that's the thing. It was those close wheels. It was where the 2 axles were like in the middle of the trailer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was close enough where it didn't lean over. Nothing. That's why we're like, fuck it, just go home. We're 5 minutes away. Go. And about Great Northern, I think that's when all the smoke started coming out from the burnt rubber of the tire. And people are pulling up behind us, or they're pulling up from behind us, and they're like screaming at us and pointing back, and we're all just flipping them off. We're like, fuck you. Right. They're like, you guys are, hey, you got a flat tire. We're like, we know, shut the fuck up, get out of here. Leave us alone. We're trying to get home. You know, we know. So then we finally got home. Then we had to take the trailer to the place in the morning and get a new tire, and then we left from there. And then, like, dude, Kevin knows that I drove all the time. I drive all the time, or I used to drive like 24 hours in a day.
Right.
I mean, that's all I used to do. So I'm like, Kevin, just relax. I said, I got this, man. I will take us straight through to Oklahoma City. I will do this. And that's like a 19-hour, 18-hour drive for me because I was dumb. So Rom looks at me. It's like we left like at 9 o'clock in the morning. About 9 o'clock at night, Rom's like, "Hey, dude, do you want me to drive?" And I'm like, "Dude, I got it. I'm totally cool. Everything's fine." He's like, all right, cool, no problem then, right? And I'm not paying attention to him, so I guess he fell asleep because he was like, well, fuck it, I'm going to sleep. So he crashes out. Well, about half hour later, I start nodding off. My head's bobbing up and down. I'm trying to smoke cigarettes with the window open. He's like, shut your window, dude, it's cold. I'm like, fuck. And turn the radio down. Oh, jeez. Bobbing my head. I eventually ended up slapping him about an hour later. I was like, dude, you got to drive. He's like, I just fell asleep. I was like, yeah, you got to drive. So he got behind the wheel. He started nodding off. He called me back in like an hour later. I was like, dude, what the hell? So then I started driving again. I nodded off. I said, screw this. I pulled over to the side of the road somewhere on the highway. I just pulled over. I put my head back. I passed out. I cracked the window so we didn't die. And I got my head back, and I'm just laying there. All of a sudden, I hear tapping on the window, and it wakes me up. But I didn't open my eyes because I was like, "Oh fuck, there's a cop." It's like a highway patrolman or whatever. And he's gonna bust. He's gonna do something. He's gonna say something stupid, and he's gonna be like, here's a ticket for doing something, or get up and go, get out of here, or whatever. I open my eyes. It's like this Pakistani guy with this road map. He's like got this road map, and I'm like, it's like one of those where you've been up all day. You know how you can be up all day long. You pass out for like half an hour.
Yes.
Somebody wakes you up, and it is like you have on 20 hits of acid. You drank like 5 liters of Jack Daniels. You smoked 5 joints. You feel you don't even know what's going on. And that's what the guy's tapping on the window. I look out the window. It's a Pakistani guy with a giant road map, and he's like, "How do you get to Dallas?" And I looked at him, and I'm just like, "What?" I'm like, "What?" He's like, "How do you get to Dallas?" He goes, "Is this the way to Dallas?" And I looked at him, and I'm like, "My license plates are from Ohio." And he's like, "Yes, I know. Is this the way to go to Dallas?" I'm like, "Dude, I don't know where the fuck I'm at. Leave me, I'm sleeping." And he's like, "So you don't know?" And I'm like, "No." I'm like, "We're going to Oklahoma." He's like, "How do you get to Oklahoma?" And I'm like, "Go straight." I'm like, "Follow this road." And I'm like screaming at this guy. It was kind of messed up. But then we eventually got there, and then, okay, real quick, we got there. We unloaded. We didn't have a lot of stuff. We unloaded our stuff, got it out. You know what I mean? Like put the bed together in the bedroom, put the dresser up, unpack your clothes, do all this stuff. You know what I mean? Put out your action figures, and records and stereos and all this TVs and stuff.
Toys.
And
dude, Spider-Man goes here. No, he doesn't. Yes, he does.
Right. You know what I mean? We unpacked all this stuff. Dude, I got like thousands of stories from Oklahoma that people don't even know about. It's insane what Kevin Rom does. What up, Kevin Rom, if you're listening? We unpacked all our stuff. All of a sudden, we're looking out the window like, man, it's getting pretty dark out there. Open the door, and it's like... We're like, wow. We made a deal. We signed a contract with this dude that we were working for that we wouldn't smoke cigarettes or drink beer or anything. So we left the windows open in October. All the doors open, so this wind was coming through. It was going crazy. We're like, wow, we got to shut this down. Just as we're shutting it down, it stopped, and everything's just quiet. And we're like, oh, all right, good. That's cool. All of a sudden, the phone rings. It's our boss. He's like, yeah, tornado touchdown. Get all your shit, pack it in the closet. Get in the closet with the radio and the phone, and don't do anything. Don't move. So everything we unpacked, like in a matter of 20 minutes, we threw everything. Just throwing everything in the closet. Me, within 20 minutes, Kevin Rom and I were in the closet with a mattress over top of us. We had a phone next to us and the TV in front of us with Oprah on and a radio. And then, it passed us by. Nothing ever hit, and we had to bring everything back out.
Welcome to Oklahoma, right?
Yeah, welcome. And then we're two guys from
fucking Rom right now. It's just fucked up, man.
No, you know what's the fucked up part is we come pulling in and this lady comes up and goes, hi, I'm your new neighbor. It's this old lady. We're like, oh, hey, how you doing? She's like, oh, okay, where are you guys from? We're like, we're from Cleveland. She's like, oh, okay. And we're like, what the hell? What's wrong with Cleveland, right? It turns out we go to turn on the news. 2 guys from Cleveland were booking across country, murdered some people in Missouri, and they were on their way to Oklahoma. And so this lady heard it on the news, and here's me and Kevin. We're like, yeah, we're from Cleveland. How you doing? And she's just like, oh my God.
Huge.
Right. I'm telling you, everybody was fucking with us on this trip. It was insane.
Yeah, I just had some ribs.
So Don Cease has joined us, and
just in time for the end of the show. Yeah,
we're going through everybody's moving history here, and we had caught up to when Don Anderson moved to Oklahoma with Kevin Rom. And Don, you when you were born? Where were you born? Were you born in Fairview?
Son.
I was born in the depths of hell.
Fairview Hospital.
In the ghetto.
Ding, 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 ding,
Yeah, born and raised, Northern Ohio. Yee-hoo.
ding.
Fairview Hospital.
Good old Fairview Hospital.
And did you then live at the that house that I met? You know, that we hung out. You know, Perfect Plumbing
house
Company and
that
all that.
God-
on
You know
Lorraine?
what? We had a couple of here and there's. You know, most of them are in North Homestead. We had a nice brand new house up until I was 5, and then we moved to the Rat Trap. You knew when you found me. That fucking place. But yeah, no, we actually had a nice little neighborhood with kids and everything, and then we moved to fucking in the middle of fucking North Olmsted with everybody laughing at the fucking plumbing sign in the front yard. You know,
Don lived on Lorraine Road in a place where there were no houses anymore, and so he basically, his dad had a business, and they lived behind the business. And at the time, I think when you were young, there was Co School across the street from you, right?
yeah, that fucking place closed down. Then I went to another elementary school that closed down 2 years later, and then
And they built a
on
gas
from there.
station across the street from his house and everything. And then your parents moved. Where'd they go?
They went to Strongsville after that, and that's where I finished out my high school year.
Do you remember the move at all? Was it difficult?
No, I don't remember it, to be honest with you. Actually, we had to move to Cleveland first. Remember
Right.
that little Cleveland shithole?
Right.
For about a year, I had to live there, and we'd walk down the street, and these kids that are 10 years old be asking me for my cigarettes and shit. Hey, man, give me some cigarettes. Can I have a cigarette? And be like, get the fuck out of here. You're 10, you know? It was just crazy. I mean, Kevin and I would watch these fucking fights in the middle of this grassy field out by some pizza joint. You know, we just sit there eating fucking pizza.
Yeah,
and
it was a rough neighborhood.
Each other.
And I'd still go over there though because it beats sitting at home.
Yeah.
And the thing is Don's dad built his house in Strongsville, right?
Yeah,
obviously he didn't just start shaving down his own trees and everything, but he constructed this house, which was pretty cool. It was basically two houses. I've talked about it before. It was essentially two houses. His is it your dad's mom?
And no, my mom's mom had her mother-in-law suite all to herself.
Right. And
there's a 3-car garage. It was a really decked out little house. I mean, it wasn't that small, but
Yeah, and you could it was pretty cool because his mom's mom had her own little place on the one side, and their living rooms connected with these doors, and you could open if you had a big party, you could open these doors up and slide everything back, so it was a huge living room or something. And they had a big deck, and there was a stream going through their backyard. So Don's parents were pretty loaded. No.
Yeah, they loaded off my grandmother's shit. She sold her house and fucking started living with them, and that's how they got all that shit. They sold both their houses, my grandmother's and theirs. So
right. So so I accelerated everybody to the point where you and I then moved to Broadview Heights. Right. And Larry was saying that we lived in condos.
No, we did not.
I was saying that it was more like a Soviet bloc apartment complex. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. The greatest thing is we had the first the 3 apartments. We were on the 3rd floor, weren't we?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, the one guy below us and then another guy below us, it was nothing but parties. We'd hand up beers and shit. And this one guy that was on the 1st floor, fucking showing us his fucking pet snakes all the time. We're like, dude, I don't want to see this fucking. No, you got to see it, man. I'm like, oh, god damn. He'd be all tired from work, and this guy's like, dude, get in here.
I wouldn't want to live below us though, because there was always we were always having parties and people were peeing off the balcony and everything, and
peeing, throwing up, whatever. You know,
it wasn't good.
Just throwing shit.
So, oh, honey, I love you. I love you too. You just look at her, just music just thumping.
Okay, so Anderson goes there, and let's see.
God damn it!
22. Larry, when did you move away from?
He was cast.
Broadview Heights. How old were you?
When I moved away from Jesus Christ, I don't even know. After Broadview Heights,
Well, you got married and then moved, or how did that go?
no, that was still way down the road.
All right.
I think after that, I actually moved back into Cleveland and stayed with my grandparents for a few months for some reason.
How old were you?
like 20 something. I don't even remember. I wasn't there that long.
Okay, and then where'd you go?
And then I moved.
When you say moved, were you just like basically packing a suitcase? I mean, are you just like a nomad at this point?
Oh no. I was, I would move to one place, set up shop,
The hitcher.
and then a few months later, I would then pack up furniture and fucking piles and piles of shit that I just got done unpacking to move to the next place. It was always a full blown house full of
Pack his action figures.
hand-me-down furniture that
Comic
other
books
people gave me because they felt sorry for me.
Bags of play sand. Yeah.
So
So you went where?
after that, I moved over into the hood. I moved into Slavic Village over on the east side of Cleveland.
Wow. How old were you?
23, 24, something like that.
How long were you there? Why did you move there? You just decided to move there by yourself, or did you get a roommate, girlfriend? What's going on?
My dad bought a house over there, a duplex that he was going to rent out, and I moved into the one half of it, basically to keep an eye on things and shit for him. And he basically let me stay there rent free, and I just would occasionally deal with the people in the back.
You guys owe us money. Fuck you, kid. I'll leave.
Kid.
Take
And
off your pants.
it was me and basically my girlfriend moved in there.
Your girlfriend's cute. You get out of here.
She was cute, but of course, that means I had to then go ruin it and hook up with my kids, my future baby mama, and yeah.
Oh, good, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so how you left there when?
I was there maybe 2 years, maybe. That's when I hooked up with Vicky, and then my dad had decided to make a go of this and bought another duplex that he was going to be renting out, but it allowed me to upgrade because this one was going to take some work, and I was going to help work on it, and we finished like one half.
Because you're handy.
This was in Parma.
Hand me that tool, please. Yeah.
this was an up and down duplex, and I moved into the upstairs, and we then set about renovating the downstairs. And once it was done, I moved into the downstairs
You were
and
asked
we
to
rented
leave.
out the upstairs
I'm
or something
confused.
like that.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
very, very undramatic.
I'm seasick now.
How old were you?
Christ, 25. I don't know.
Okay. All this time I still
So
don't
you're
know
as
where.
old as Christ. That's
So
right.
Brian, you lived on, and then you moved to Bradgate. Is that right?
What?
When you left a little apartment that you lived
Was it
with,
called Bradgate? I don't even remember
you
anymore,
lived
man.
off. You lived off
Bradbury.
Bradgate. Well, that's how we all acknowledged it. And I'm
I always
pretty
remember that we lived across the street from the fucking...
Well, don't forget, he
graveyard.
moved from the one apartment to the other apartment.
Yeah, we moved from one apartment to the other apartment, but
I
that was
forgot
like
that.
maybe a year or two later, and that's because we had the kid by then. So
That's where the graduation party was at.
yeah, and that place, that side, for some odd reason, that side of the apartment complex was a little bit better.
Because that was close to the parking lot.
It wasn't filled with as many fucking drunken retards, I guess, until we got there. And then we moved to Bradgate. That's right, it was called Bradgate. It's fun.
Your landlord had to kick the door in to get me out of the bathroom.
Yeah, that was fun. God damn,
That's awesome. and she really did kick it in.
Yeah, it was like full
So
on.
fucking hammered back then. I mean, God, I just had. Finally, my ex-wife put her foot on. She's like, "Look, you can't have parties every fucking weekend." I'm like, "Why not?"
Every night.
Yeah, eventually. Well, because I didn't get them every night because my next door neighbor was a big dude. I was not about to fucking get in some tangled up mess with that guy. He'd have killed me.
Okay, so you moved to Bradgate, and you had to move in with your. Do you remember the move?
We didn't have to move in. We just moved in with my brother-in-law. Now, I wasn't there. By then, that's when I started truck driving. Dude.
Okay.
No, wait. No, I'm sorry. That wasn't true. I didn't start truck driving until afterwards. We moved in with my brother-in-law to help save on money. And if anybody knows my ex-wife, they will know that when she decides to make up her mind, there is no saying no. So I said, okay, honey, whatever you want to do, I'm 100% behind you. Way behind you.
Okay,
yeah.
whatever. So,
You didn't have to say anything.
Her
God
brother.
damn it.
do you remember the
Yeah.
move? Do you remember the move? Or
No, I don't remember anything
All
about
right.
the move.
You
I
just
probably
remember
blocked
going
it
in
out.
there, and did you like living?
I
with
just remember when we moved to the fucking whatchamacallit to begin with over there off Cam's Corner. Lori and I had that one U-Haul that didn't fucking work. Like, at half the time, we were like, I was going to like Joe and Carl Tuesday, and I'm like, I need help moving because I can't drive fucking standard shift. Because for some odd reason, that piece of shit place out there where we used to rent our equipment from only had standard shift fucking trucks. And, you know, so I'd have to have Carl
And
Tuesday
now
drive
look
it.
at you.
And dude, the one that we fucking we borrowed from U-Haul didn't even have second gear. Carl's like, I can't get this. There's no second gear. Because I'm trying to put in second gear. There is no second gear. I'm like, you're fucking kid. You're joking. He's like, no, I'm not joking. Fuck it. Which is a big goddamn nightmare. Especially that China cabinet. It took like 20 dudes to move that fucking China cabinet that fit in no human doorway. But she had to have it so she could put her fucking bullshit trinkets in there. But that was another show. Anyway, so but the actual move there, I don't think took very long, man. Because her brother had probably borrowed a truck from her dad or something like that, and I was just kind of like, I got along with her brother pretty good, you know. I didn't know his fucking girlfriend for shit, but you know, I figured, you know, how bad can it be, right? We moved upstairs.
all I know is that guy was Eddie was his name? Nice guy, super nice guy. But every time I would hang out, Brian would always be like, "Well, you don't want to see him mad though." Because he gets mad, and then it's, and I'm like, I'm always worried. I'm always worried, I'm going to go over there and something, and he's just going to flip. But he never did.
I tell you that, really?
Yeah, he was always the nicest guy.
I helped him move. I went over to wherever that dude was living with the Rockhead chick, that chick that was dumber than dumb. Does she listen to the show? Doubt it, but she's dumb. If you do, you're dumb. That girl was dumb.
She gets money from the government for being dumb.
Oh yeah, I remember her.
Passed around
She made cookies that one day. She was like, "Hey everybody, I made cookies." And everybody put them in their mouths, except for me. I was like, you know what? I'm not eating it. And everybody put them in their mouths, and immediately everybody just started spitting them out. They were like, "Did you even mix it up?" It was like powder inside and stuff. It was disgusting. We went over. Me and Oz went over to wherever he was. He was living in the back room of somebody's house. And remember? Do you remember that, Brian? Because you were like, "Dude, if you want to help, you want to help my brother-in-law move because he'll buy you beer." And I was like, "I don't want beer, but I can't talk about that because somebody will give you 20 years." But anyways,
jail.
Oh yeah, I wanted something else, and I ended up going over. Me and Oz went over to his place, picked up a mattress that had all kinds of hundreds of pee stains all over it and stuff.
It was really nasty. I couldn't believe it was that fucked up.
He was. I mean,
I would never have invited you guys if I had known. I'm just like, let's get this over with. Because Laura's like, don't you have people you can invite over? And I'm like, no.
You would have still invited him. You cared. Dude,
I was at
I'm
my bottom of
embarrassed.
my
You
fucking
didn't care.
You know, because Joe and Carl Tuesday were like, dude, we're not helping you move again. Nothing. Okay. Even I'm like, dude, I bought pizza and beers. They're like, we don't care. You've got too much shit. You know, you've moved 100 times. Now we're done.
Something always happens when you move, though.
Yeah.
All right. So, meanwhile, all right.
So go on. Sorry.
I was living with Cease. We lived there about a year.
Back at the crypt.
We lived a little. It was actually about a year and a half because my dad took care of the summer, and then Cease and I took on the lease for a year, and then we were there for a year. Then I'm not going to go into the whole reasons why we split up, but Cease basically had to go back home for a little while. And though you weren't there very long, you moved out with Vince and or Mick or what? I don't know exactly what the situation was. What, Anderson? What?
No, I was just commenting on the the Baird C split.
You went home and then you moved out with who? Vince or by yourself or what was the story there?
But me, I moved by myself. Then Vince moved in. I don't know why I volunteered people to move in. It's the worst. So I had him for 4 months. He was all right, for a while. And then I'd go into my room and I had this big thing of change, and it'd be slowly disappearing. I was like, what the fuck? I'm not using that shit. And once I went in there, I'm like, and he would always be home before I got there. And I'm like, dude, you got no fucking job, do you? No. I'm like, get out. That was the last assignment. I'm like, you have to steal my fucking money too, fucker.
And then you live with Mick, right?
Oh God, Mick was all right. He just got in a divorce, and it was pretty bad. He was in a bad way, and he started bringing all these young his like sister's friends over and starts smoking like massive everything you can think of. I mean, the place looked like a fucking head shop. They had bongs everywhere. I'm like, all right, dude. I'm like, then at that time, just before I left there, I met my future wife at that moment, and I decided to move from there.
Okay. So I moved to Fairview by myself, and I lived in the smallest little apartment.
Nope, it's not.
It's not as small as Don's and Don's.
No.
But at the time, it was the
Yours was
smallest.
big. You're right, dude. You're right. Yours was small. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
It was as small as anybody's that we had known at the time. And,
yeah.
It was little, and it was an all right place. People would come over, we would party. Anderson had then come back. Now let me tell you something about Don. Anderson will probably be able to tell you more about this. But before he had left from Oklahoma, he had spent a while drinking and partying because he would play in his band at Flash Gordon's, and I would say you were a little overweight at the time.
Yes. Oh, yeah. No, I was over 200.
Right, which is crazy if you know Don Anderson.
200.
Yeah, he was. Oh, dude,
I haven't weighed 200 pounds since kindergarten.
Dude,
yeah, I'm 180.
There's pictures
now.
So they go out. They go out to Oklahoma, and how long were you out in Oklahoma for?
3 months.
Okay, 3 months. Comes back.
3 months he was in Oklahoma.
Listen,
what? For what?
Must not have eaten while he was out there. Came back.
The volcano sucked it out of his ass.
Looked seriously skeletal when he showed up at my door with Kevin Robb. Neither of them looked healthy at all.
We're like, look at us. Food. You're back from the dead.
It must have been
Stole
like
some corn or something.
I don't know what you guys were eating out there, but it must not have been much.
Peanut butter jelly and pasta.
It was
all together at once.
Sure, sometimes.
So, yeah. So
Dude,
anyway,
I'm telling you, I'm going to do my own show, and I'm going to do Oklahoma. That's going to be one episode right there.
All right,
go ahead.
So Anderson used to come over at night, and he would be like fucking playing like rollerblade hockey and shit with his buddies until like 11 or something. And then he would show up, and we'd go to Walgreens and get free food from his friends, and we would whatever. Place was a cool party place. And then, like, I had a girl move in who I should not have had move in. I wasn't dating her.
And everybody knew her.
And,
oh, yes. Some better than others. Just not Kevin.
Right. And then the mole
but everybody
moved
that Kevin
the
knew that
hall.
came over the house, they got to know her.
And it got all uncomfortable when she was there because, like,
it was
Get out of my bed, damn it!
Dude, it was uncomfortable for me as a visitor. I don't even know how
Hi guys.
It must have been a million-fold.
That was the nicest apartment you ever lived in, though.
No, she was not. She was cool. She's just like a whirlwind. Like she's just like a lot to take. Like we're just laid back.
No pun intended.
We're just like laid back people. We're just like Anderson would come over. We'd be like, we could just chill out and play video games and just talk and stuff. But if she came in the room, it was just like Tasmanian devil or something. It was just.
What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why don't you go like this? You know what you guys should do? You guys should do this. And then you should put this on. But why don't you put these on? Those are dumb shoes.
Are we all going to Slam Jams? Slam Jams? Are we going to Slam Jams?
I heard that one a million times, and I'm like, no.
It wasn't right. So, I eventually was just told her, I was like, look, I'm going to move back in with my dad because money was tight because my car was a piece of shit, and I'd only been there a year, and I was like, you're going to have to leave, and so. We had a fight, and before she left, she took all her furniture because that's all we had there, and she gave it to the mole who lived across the hall. So I had no furniture in my apartment; it was just carpets and stuff. But luckily, Don Anderson's mom gave me a chair, and Brian Osborne worked at Goodwill and found a couch or something for us. So basically, got some Goodwill furniture and Don Anderson's mom's chair. Right. And I have a picture of Don sleeping in that chair. And
there's a video of me sleeping underneath that picture of me sleeping in the chair of me sleeping in the chair. Does that make sense?
That's right. Yeah, there is.
Right.
I missed that one.
So just before I moved back in with my dad, Dan James called me on the phone, and he was like,
"Here we go."
About this shit.
His family has a farm.
People have to understand something, first of all. I don't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
This is important. Dan James, everybody in their group has that one person that when you say their name, everybody goes, "Ah, shit,
That guy.
that's Dan James." So whoever that guy is in your group, that's your Dan James. Go ahead.
Yeah, so right, and yeah, actually we have more than one friend like that because
Well, yeah,
We've got a lot of those.
but right, Dan is a nice guy, but he gets like crazy at times.
Right.
There's a great way to explain it. Like when he's being normal, he's fine, but then
Wants to self-destruct.
he just like tilts, and then you got to look
You gotta
out.
keep the beer out of him. That's all.
And basically, I never really minded it because I didn't really hang out with him in the places that he went to that this would happen, so I didn't really care. And anyway, his family had a huge farm in North Ridgeville, and it's just massive.
Right.
And he was like, "Well, listen, my grandfather died, and they need somebody to take care of it. And you can move in. The rent's only $100, and all we got to do is mow it once a week." So I was like, "Well, all right, I can afford $100. Why not?" And so I should have known better. I should have just moved back in with my dad. So we moved out there, which was actually difficult because he had bought a brand new truck and he didn't want to like scuff it up or anything. So like he was all being super anal about putting anything into his truck. But eventually we got his truck to go, and I think Anderson helped move some stuff. But Anderson's truck wasn't doing so well, so you couldn't put too much in it or something.
Right.
I remember that too. So I move out there, and there's no air conditioning in the farm, which I never thought about at first, but.
Yeah, well, you did later.
Fuck, was it hot. And what I don't also understand is Dan can't hold a job. He's worse.
Yeah. Among many other things.
He's worse than Larry. I mean, he really is. Larry, you're like a great employee compared to Dan James. Dan James gets mad that he has to work for anyone. He's like, he will bust ass around the house, though.
You take out the garbage? Fuck you, man. I quit.
He will clean the whole house. He'll mow the lawn. He'll wash his truck. He gets up early. He'll fucking, if it's his, he'll do whatever. But the minute somebody's like, well, you got to come in tomorrow. Fuck you, man. No, and it's like the guy never had any money at all. So they disconnected our telephone, and he didn't pay for the propane heat, the water softener, salt, nothing, right? So at one point, the phone company had reconnected our phone by accident. They had turned on a little girl's phone on the street somewhere. Right. And they had given her like her own line, and they had accidentally crossed her circuit with our phone. So
That was a mess.
So you could pick up the phone and you could call somebody, but once in a while she'd pick up the phone. She'd be like, "Hello?" And we'd be
That
like,
happened once.
we'd be like, "Oh shit!" We'd hang up the phone and stuff. But then Dan started calling 1-900 numbers on that phone, and so the phone company came out and like were pissed, and they like came over to the house and were lecturing me about it. Like I came to the door and they were in the back door, and he's like, "Well, we disconnected that phone." Like giving me this look and stuff. Like I'm going to sit there and say something like, I don't know what he expected me to say, but I was just like,
Play
okay.
your fucking backpack bomber and go, fuck you!
It was just crazy. So like I would like start taking the rent and paying like bills with it, but then like Dan didn't want to tell it. Like he had a brand new truck and he wasn't making car payments on it or something, so he told me that I had to pay rent, even though I was trying to pay for like heat. So I ended up having to give him the money so he could make his truck payment, which he never did. I think he lost that truck eventually. And after a year of that shit, I was like, all right, I'm moving. So I moved to Lakewood. And at this point, Brian, you left Bradgate.
Right.
And had...
I was on the road by that point, dude. So my wife moved back to North Olmsted. Because she was like, where are we going to live? Because we were having problems with our landlord. Because our landlord fucking got divorced and his wife got the house. And she's like, well, you guys got to pay me a whatchamacallit. You got to pay me the deposit. And we're like, well, get it from your ex-husband. She goes, no, it doesn't work that way. And as it turned out, she had to take Ed, my ex-wife's brother, to court to get that money. We never had to pay it. He did. So, which was really weird. And the house was a fucking wreck by that point. And I was tired of coming home there anyway. She's like, where are we going to move? Like, why just move to some apartments in fucking North Olmsted? There's like 1,000 of them, and isn't that, at the time, it wasn't that really expensive to live there. And so that's where we ended up. I just came back from being on the road, and there we were living.
Right.
Okay, so Anderson, at some point your parents told you to get out, right? What happened?
Basically, they said they were moving. They said, "Hey, we're moving," and I said, "Great, where are we moving to?" And they said, "No, we're moving." and by the way, get out of the house. So yeah, I moved.
And you moved where?
Olmsted Falls, Oakwood Estates, and I moved there with my brother Bobby, and that lasted a year because he found within that year he hooked up with this chick and then got married. They got married. He was like, "Can she move in here?" I was like, "No." I love her to death. She's like the greatest chick in the world. And you know, Bobby's a great guy. If you don't know Bobby, you're missing out. But for those who have met Bobby, they know that dude will do anything to make sure you're happy. So yeah. So
if we had a radio show and Bobby was on it, the show would be 5 hours long. And,
right. Oh yeah. And nobody would talk
except Bobby.
Right.
All right. We got to speed it up.
Right.
Unfortunately, because we got a sports show, we got a guest tonight. So
watch this. You ready? So I moved to Olmsted Falls, lived in Oakwood Estates. Bobby was there for a year. He moved out. I lived there with Clint for 2 years. He moved out. I then went out to move to Maple Heights, where I lived in an apartment there for 1 year. Moved from there, lived with Oz for about 3 months. Then found out we had to move out of there. Then moved in with Bobby and Amy, which is ironic because I wouldn't let her move into the apartment for the last 3 months. Bam! But they let me live there for 3 years. And then that's when I met Julie, and we all know what happened from there. So go on. Okay, I'm done.
Don't you? I want to hear this. What about when you lived with Brian Osborne in that house, and they like came in and basically told you guys you had to leave?
He came up to me and was like, we got 7 days to come up with $15,000. And I was like, excuse me? He's like, we could buy the house for $15,000 in 7 days. I was like, dude, if you gave me like a month, maybe I could work something out with some people. I'm like, 7 days? I'm like, nah, it's cool. I'm out. So I ended actually, my parents were on vacation for a month. So I moved into their place for a month. They didn't even know it.
Think about how great your life would have been if you would have just bought that house with Oz.
Right. That was crazy. I'll just do my own show, man.
All right.
I have to.
All right. So Larry, you want to summarize?
Yeah. When last we saw our hero, I was living in Parma with Vicky. We got married, bought a house in Maple Heights. We got separated. I got an apartment in North Royalton for about a year. Then we decided to get back together, so I went back to Maple Heights. Then we decided to split up again. I bought her out of the house because I'm a retard and a nice guy, so I took out a second on the house, which of course completely bankrupted me. Snuck out of the house in the middle of the night so they wouldn't foreclose on me. And basically fled to my parents' basement in Medina.
Where he's been ever since.
Where I've been ever since.
Brian, you want to summarize?
And while we're here, I'm going to be hitting you guys up to move me in the next few months.
At one time, I was living in a place called Lakewood, Ohio, which was sort of like Xanadu for me. Because it was full of cool bars and people I know and everything. And he was on the west side, and our weather was better. And even though the house was sort of shitty in a way, and it was something I could live with. Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Dude, you're totally skipping over living in Kevin's closet.
We already covered that.
That was in Lakewood.
Yeah, it was in Lakewood. Even then, that wasn't so bad, dude. Kevin was easy to get along with. But it just, and then we moved out here to East Lake because we got a condo. The condo's nice, don't get me wrong. And it's right across the street from the school where my daughter goes, which is convenient. And her mom lives just down the road. So
I think what you're really missing is you're missing the living with Bill Bailey.
I was just going to say that.
That's the important one.
Oh, we have to cover that, huh?
You just have to.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. I was freshly divorced, and
everybody's lived with Bill Bailey.
Yeah, everybody we know has lived with Bill Bailey, and not one person we know has been able to make it for over a year. Bill's a good guy. I couldn't live with him, and maintain my relationship with my girlfriend at the same time because she didn't like him or her girlfriend. And, I don't think they liked her all that much, and so at first it was pretty cool. Bill and I would go out and hang out and do stuff together, and fun, crazy kind of guy to hang out with. But when it came to having the women in the house, it ceased to become fun.
There were always those uncomfortable hangout sessions at the house where everyone's having a good time till most likely Bill says something, and then Jody just sits there staring at him. You're all like, "So, catch you guys later. We're gonna leave now."
Yeah. It was never pleasant. And then finally, we found that we moved to in Lakewood, and I'm like, well, I got to tell Bill. And I think I told Cal, like, should I tell Bill? He's like, dude, don't tell him. Just move, okay? Just leave him the money in a note saying, sorry, I had to move. Because it'll be a month of agony, and he'll just keep bitching about it, and you guys can get into a fight. He goes, they'll be mad, but they'll get over it. And that's how I did it. It worked. So then we moved to Lakewood, and Lakewood was great. So,
and then from Lakewood,
Lake.
You moved to East Lake, and that's where you live now.
Yeah, and it's horrible. I mean, it's a nice place to live as far as, like, nice places to live go, but outside, dude, it's like, number one, I don't know nothing around here, and I've tried. Okay, number two, the people here are all fucking douchebags. So.
All right, Cease, can you summarize?
Yes.
Then do it.
I left my own damn apartment, moved in with the woman, got married, and stayed miserable for 13 years. That's the end of it.
See the pattern?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a pattern here, people. There's a theme to the show, folks. It's an underlying theme.
Yeah, the way this all went was here are all these cool stories about how much fun we had. Then we got married, and then we wound up broke and miserable.
Yep.
I lived
there.
I lived in Lakewood for 6 years, about, and I got too much stuff, basically. And
the hottest apartment ever.
And
hottest apartment ever.
It was Lakewood's a place where it's cool to live in your 20s, but as you get older, it's probably not as cool. You got to park on the street. Car kept getting fucking broken into and fucked up, and it's questionable.
It has its problems.
Questionable neighbors and things like that. So it was time to go. So got a place in, where'd I go? I went to Strongsville and lived there for a while, a number of years, 5 years or something, which was okay. It was okay place to live, but it got kind of shady, and the landlord didn't really take care of the place very well. And again, kind of outgrowing it. Kind of got to the point where I had so much stuff that like I was running out of like those moments where you're walking around, you go, I only have like this 1 4-foot area of carpet, and everything else has got like a chair or a bookcase or something in it. And I'm just like, this sucks. I got to get a bigger place.
Every time I went over there, I didn't know where to sit down. You'd always be like, sit down. I'd be like, I don't know where.
Yeah,
it
was just too much. There was just too much. So I then moved to this fucking crazy guy's house where we lived on the second floor of his garage. And the guy was super loaded, and the place was pretty nice upstairs, but it was just kind of like he was working on. He was like, when we first moved there, it was like this guy, this old man sitting there, and he was all like, well, I work on my car sometimes in the garage, and it's only during the day. So we're thinking this old man's going to be down there, bing, 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 or working on something with some sandpaper or something. But he had a full-time worker that he hired, and they would work on weekends, and they would like refinish cars and everything. And there was an air compressor on, and buzzsaws and shit. So, and we didn't have a garage because he had the garage because he was working on his cars. And he was like refinishing, rebuilding old cars because he just had so much money. He was just like, I just bought this car and I'm going to rebuild it. He bought like a new engine. He had guys come and work on it. They redid all the fiberglass and shit. It was pretty cool if you were into cars, but it wasn't cool if you wanted to smell all that shit coming up from the fucking floor. So he basically, I didn't want to move again because he just moved, and I was so fucking tired of moving because I had a lot of stuff, and you got to walk up all these fucking stairs. And Brian will tell you because he almost died fucking helping me move into this place
at least once
because nobody else fucking showed up except Brian. And
that was fucking ass.
It was ass, and we moved. It was fucking. It was fucking harsh, and so I didn't want to move again. But the guy who came in, he was like, "Well, my brother or my son that needs a place to stay, so you guys have to move out. You got 30 days." So we're like, "Fuck." So we found a house in North Royalton, and we vacated with all of these guys helping very quickly, and it was actually one of the easiest moves I've ever.
Yeah,
had.
It was pretty quick. I'm only saying that in relation to the last one.
Well, that was because you and I had to do it ourselves. There was nobody else showed up.
Dude, I was all like, hey, I'm so fucking
and we had to go upstairs. We had to go downstairs and then upstairs. It was fucking horrible. So that was it. All right, we got to wrap it up. We have a 10 o'clock. I got to export the show. You guys got to do a Don and Don, so that's going to be it. I wish the show was longer, but we got a guest on sports tonight, so I got to wrap this one up. Hopefully this time it works out with the guest.
We'll revisit this and actually get to tell the stories about landlords chasing us and moving into houses that had no electricity and stuff next time.
Yeah, we'll probably have a recap episode at some point where we touch on things we may have forgotten, but I got a feeling that if we do that, we'll sit around and be like, I got nothing.
I didn't give you any stories. All you wanted was a timeline. I got stuff about hiding from landlords.
That's
I got
what I'm
no
saying, man. I got
electricity in a
stories.
house. I got
yeah, but
This is not about moving. This is about complaining.
listen. You guys got
so you fell through them.
You guys got to tell me this stuff at the beginning. I mean, you got to tell me what you got so I can get into it.
I think the sports.
Dude, you got to assume it's coming. So, what time you want me back for the sports show?
Are you going to do Don and Don?
Well, yeah, but I tried to go outside and smoke a cigarette real quick.
Well, it's going to be quick. We're going to do 10:15.
Okay, cool.
All right.
I'll be back in a minute.
All right.
Later on. Peace.
Anyway, thanks for listening. Peace.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for showing up.
Yeah.
Hey, not a problem. I'm actually still here. Was that it?
Yeah, so I'm still here too.